Hi, this is Lami again with TraXel. I'm TraXel's nurse coach. This is another episode of Holistic Approach to Wellness with MS. I'm so excited to be back. I took a little bit longer than expected with the holiday break, but it was good, and Happy New Year, by the way. I'm super excited. I have a guest speaker with me today, and I'll introduce Kim here in just a second. But I just wanted to say super quick, I realized in December that it's already been 1 year since I've been doing my podcast episodes. So I really appreciate everybody's support, everybody watching all these episodes. I really appreciate that, and I'm super grateful to have the opportunity to be with everybody and just talk about wellness and MS. And so I wanted to talk about my fellow nurse coach and friend, Kim. We met each other through American Holistic Nurses Association. We happened to do a speaking event there, and that's where we met about a year ago. And ever since then, we've kind of just been talking and hanging out more and more, and I've been learning a lot from her. And so I know I've talked about in the past year a lot about just mindfulness, meditation, breath work. But this episode, I really wanted to focus, especially with the beginning of the year, really just have an episode directly speaking about breath work. So that's what Kim is here to do, and that's why she's with us. So again, this is my friend Kim, and I'll just have her talk, and we'll just kind of go from there. Okay. Hi, Kim.
Hey, Lami.
I was just gonna say, I was just wondering, how did you even get into breath work?
Yeah, so breath work has been something that I've been interested in and practicing for probably about 12 years, actually maybe 13 years. I actually got into it when I was struggling. I was going through a really difficult time in my life, going through a divorce, and was really not in the best headspace. And I was seeing a therapist who encouraged me to practice mindfulness. And so I started to learn more about mindfulness in John Kabat-Zinn in Worcester, Massachusetts at UMass Medical Center. So I did an 8-week course there, and breath work is a lot of times, when people are in meditation, they talk a lot about bringing it back to the breath. And so a lot of times the anchor for people is actually their breath. So that's pretty much how I got into it.
I love that so much. And yeah, we, especially me now as a nurse coach, really understand the importance of how our breath is everything. And so, I was just going to say too, I hear you say that breath is a superpower. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, I'm a big advocate for breath work. And I love teaching people anything that has helped me, and it's just been so beneficial. But when I think about a superpower, I think about, all the benefits. And so breath work has so many benefits, and I'm not going to go through all the the list of physical benefits, but there's a few. It's good for respiratory health. It helps with chronic pain. It can help with sleep. It can help to increase, taking a few breaths can increase our oxygen levels, which helps with clarity and focus. A big one is when we take some deep belly breaths, it happens to trigger the vagus nerve. And this affects our parasympathetic nervous system. So it's kind of, you've heard of fight or flight. Oftentimes we go through life and we're in this fight or flight mode, which unfortunately a lot of us are in it most of the day and we don't even realize it. So the opposite of that is rest and digest. And more recently, I've heard people say rest and digest and restore. So that's one of the big benefits in terms of how it affects us physically. For me, I look at the breath as being something that can just help us to slow down, take a moment, get out of our heads, and respond to circumstances rather than react. Because a lot of times we react really quickly. And so the whole point of, for me, oftentimes taking a breath is like, okay, Kim, slow it down, take a breath, and let's think about how we want to react to the situation. And I guess also I would just say I love the breath because it's free. It's a free tool that we can use. It's always accessible. It's right there. And you know what? Nobody has to know that you're doing it. So
Yeah. That's what I absolutely love. Yeah, exactly. You can really use it anytime, anywhere, but it is about practice. So a lot of people maybe get a little bit intimidated by that, but it's just keep it simple, start little by little, and then the more practice you get, the better and easier I feel like it can get.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think sometimes, I see a lot of, these great, offerings, different types of breathwork classes. And, I think people see that and they're like, oh my gosh, like someone's going to yell at me and tell me to breathe like this or like that. And, and those offerings are out there. There's half-hour sessions, there's hour sessions. But what I like to teach people is just how to use it in your daily life. So, just making it part of our daily practice and using it again. I think the more that we do, it's like anything. The more that we, incorporate exercise, whatever, anything in our lives, the more that we do it, the more it becomes just routine. And so we want to get to that point where you're not even thinking about it. You're just like, oh, like I pull up into work and I'm like, just naturally take a breath, So it just becomes more of a natural thing than a forced thing. And I promise that's something that happens over time. But I do think it's important to start small. And I think there's definitely some ways that you can incorporate it into your daily life. One thing that I like to do is on my phone, I actually have an app that I set for 3 times a day. And it's kind of funny because at work, a lot of my patients will say like, oh, what's that noise? And they're like, oh, is it the time that you have to take a breath? And I'm like, exactly, let's do it together.
They know.
Yeah, they do. So that, there's that. I started a new morning practice and it actually incorporates some breath work, but I started it a couple, like 3 months ago, and I'm actually doing it every morning, and it does incorporate breath work. But for me, I had to put a little sticky note on my alarm clock. So it said, it's called the high five habit. I'm not going to get into that right now. But anyway, it's a really cool morning practice. I incorporated breath work into it, but I had to set a reminder. So that was my reminder, layering it with another activity. So again, when I pull into work, it might be taking a breath. When we get out of bed, it's taking a breath. When we lay down, maybe it's taking a breath and saying one thing that we're grateful for. Mm-hmm. And there's just so many resources out there. I use a free app called Insight Timer. Lots of breath work practices on there. There's, YouTube. There's just so many resources for people.
Okay, yeah. What was that last one you said?
Insight Timer is a free app. It looks like a little wooden bowl. I love that one. They do offer a paid version, which is $60 a year, which is still really reasonable. Mm-hmm. But I've been using the free app for probably 10 years. So,
okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then, so I was just going to say, maybe we could do, like, you can show us an exercise or
sure
how to do it.
Yeah. So I, again, when I teach people the basics, I like to teach people, I often close my eyes when I take a breath. For me, that's helpful to just kind of turn in for a moment. So just kind of walking someone through it, like walking you through it. How about that? I'll do that. It makes me feel a little more comfortable.
Okay.
So, so just close your eyes for a minute, maybe dropping your shoulders. And I want you to see if you can take a deep breath in through your nose. So take a deep breath in through your nose. And I want you to see if you can imagine yourself, or do it. Send the breath all the way down to your belly. So as you're breathing in, sometimes it's really helpful to put one hand on your belly. We tend to breathe into our chest a lot. It's something that we're kind of conditioned to do, mm-hmm. but it's really when we breathe into the belly that we're going to trigger that parasympathetic response. So, a lot of times I encourage people to do it when they're laying down. So laying down, having one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly, and maybe breathing in and seeing if you can really feel the belly rise as you breathe in and fall as you exhale. So putting that together, my favorite type of breath work, there's a couple that I really like. But the other key thing that I wanted to say there, as we exhale, a lot of research around the exhale. I feel like, you see a lot of, deep breathe or breathe deeply or take an inhale. So we've had so much focus on the inhale, but the exhale is just as important, if not more important, because it's when we extend the exhale, again, that we're triggering that response. So one type of breathing, there's something called 4-7-8. I think it's taught actually in the military. That seems a little hard for people who are beginners. So I like to teach 3-5-7. So basically we're going to breathe in for 3, we're going to hold for 5, and we're going to exhale for 7. So we're going to go ahead and do 2 rounds of that. So again, you can have your eyes open, closed. So I want you to go ahead and breathe in for 1, 2, 3, deep into the belly, and we're holding 2, 3, 4, 5, and a nice long exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And again, maybe as we exhale, we're kind of sucking the belly in, letting that breath out, and maybe breathing through pursed lips. So almost imagining yourself kind of breathing through a straw. So let's do that one more time. So breathe in, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And again, if that feels like it's too much for you, you can breathe in for 3, exhale for 5.
Yeah.
So again,
I like that as a beginning one. And me personally have had a hard time like with the holding of the breath for some reason. But again, like the more you do it, the better it gets, but you can tweak it a little bit by a second or 2, right?
I completely agree. And that's what I was going to say. If that feels too much, breathe in for 3, exhale for 5.
Yeah,
don't worry about the hold.
Yeah.
Again, it's, meeting, I like to meet people where they're at, because I don't want it to make it uncomfortable. Because if it's uncomfortable, we're not going to do it. So. Right. And then just one more type of, it's called a physiological sigh. I heard about it on a podcast, and I can't, the Huberman Lab. I love the Huberman Lab. Yeah. He was talking about it, and then I did some research. It's been around for a really long time. And it's called the physiological sigh, and it's doing an inhale. So it's breathing in for a long inhale, and then adding a little bit of breath at the top. So a short inhale, and then a long exhale. So it's a double inhale followed by a long exhale. And I was just doing a breathwork class, and the woman that was guiding us had us do that. So it was breathing in through the nose, another breath in. So breathing in. So again, that first inhale is pretty long, followed by a really quick inhale, and then a nice long exhale out. So I really like that one as well. That's another one I teach. There's box breathing. Again, there's so many different types for kids. If you go on YouTube and type in breathwork for kids, there's like lion's breath. There's lots of fun activities that I think are really helpful. And I think, gosh, what a great gift we're giving to our children when we teach them things like that. Teach them, how to get out of their heads for a moment, how to calm themselves down, how to self-soothe. So.
Yeah, you start this young. Are you kidding me? That's like a game changer throughout your life. And then also, I forgot to mention that you work with kids. Like that's super. Forgot to mention.
Yeah. I spent my whole career working with teenagers and kids. I do some work with adults on the side through my coaching practice. But yes, and I always tell my students, and my patients now, I always say oh my gosh, if I had only had this tool, I only learned this. I was in my 30s when maybe even my early 40s when I learned this, and gosh, I wish I had it, as a teenager. It would have been life-changing for me.
Yeah, for sure. Same. Yeah. And so I know we're kind of talking about in general, but so I do like to say, of course, this also applies to MS, especially with how frustrating it can get with our symptoms and just dealing with everyday life. So yeah, not only is it just good for anybody, it is especially helpful for dealing with MS and frustration and symptoms and all of that.
For sure.
Yeah. And then I was just going to say, like, I appreciate you being here and talking about this with us. Like, how can we find you? Or, where?
Yeah, sure. So yes, I'm on social media, and I'm not sure if they're going to link that to this, but Kimberly McCarthy or Coach Kimmy, Kimee. And then I'm also Kim at mayyoubewellness, spelled out.com. Yeah, I mean, I love talking about this. I do some free breathwork classes. I like talking to people about mindfulness, stress reduction, breath work, self-soothing, all of it. So yeah, so I would love if someone wants to reach out, if you're looking for resources. I would be more than happy to talk to anyone.
And that's your website too, you said, right?
Yes. Kim at mayyoubewellness.com.
Yeah. May You Be Wellness. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. I love having this conversation.
Yeah.
But yes, I was just going to say, if anybody has like questions or comments, please post to the forum at mytraxel.com or reach out to us. I'm at Nourish Soul Coach on Instagram also. But yeah, if anybody has questions, just please let us know. Thank you. Let's continue to keep everybody healthy and happy.